Right.
Hey, well, in case you didn't catch that, Kim, it's that kind of day. I know you caught it, right? Like I played the out.
Yep.
All right, y'all. Before y'all start rubbing it in the chat, I played the outro instead of the intro because that's how it is tonight. Like that's how it is. Give you a heads up. Not only am I late, yeah, as long as it gets done, but I love it. That music is cool. It's very Black Mirror. I had fun making that outro. And I have to say, it's one of the only ones on the channel that's all me. Like I did all of it.
Nice.
And most of them, you know, I have other accounts that help me that are outstanding with their talent, and I'm so grateful for them. But that one actually I'm kind of fond of. But so yeah, I'm a diva, Robski, tonight. Yep. It's me. Yep. Yeah, you don't believe it? I don't know. I hope I don't prove it to you. I'm really not usually, but I am late. We do have a little bit of a switch up. I'd like you all to let Aaron's up here with us tonight. I know I advertised that Jack would be with us. And I'm hoping everything's cool. Just waiting to hear from Jack. He may join us. He may not. If he can fly in, that'll be great. But these things happen. But thankfully, Kim was very well prepared, and Aaron is very well prepared, and I actually did get time to be prepared also. So we hope we can cover this well for you. Even though you just saw us on Sunday, Kim and I making Brooker fools of ourselves.
We did. That was fun, though.
That was fun because it was no rules. And you see what happens when there's no rules? I go for hours.
Yeah.
And hours. And it wasn't
great. Don't ever let I go no rules again.
Yeah. I'll have to bring us I'll have to bring somebody up to manage us or something, you know.
Right. I think so.
All right. How is our sound, everybody? Are we even? Let's Aaron, can you speak up a little bit so we could check your sound too?
Yeah, make sure I'm not chopping either. I just got a bandwidth dip in my area.
You actually sound quite clear to me. I hope our tone is good. Do I sound louder than Kim or Aaron? Just somebody who's blue, give me a clue. Hey, it rhymed. There you go. And if the blue won't answer, just anybody, just tell us something. Thank you, Mrs. Cassandra. How are you tonight? I hope you're doing good. All right. Thank you, everybody who showed up. I guess we'll get started. I mean, this is Charlie, Aaron, apparently Charlie wants you to whisper to him because he's getting in the shower. Like,
Oh
Like,
no.
stab me. Like, she's like 50 feet away and there are knives in
oh yeah,
between.
Charlie, are you crazy? Like, Jared's in the chat, and like, boo, I'm crushed now. We're not talking. It's over. I see it. I don't know. Anyway, well, here we go with the Men Against Fire. How many times, Kim, did you watch that episode?
I watched it probably 3 years ago or so when I first binged the season, and I watched it once over the weekend, once yesterday. So three
Oh,
times.
that's unusual for you. That's low for you because you
I
like
know.
on the
I'm
Brooker
usually
scale,
like
on the
up
Black Mirror
there
scale.
close
That's
to a
low. Yeah.
dozen. Yeah, I'm usually up to a dozen.
You're roboting to me just little. I don't know if to the chat, but to me,
Yeah,
you're
I've got
roboting
it.
a little. So are you moving your mic or
No,
headset in any way? Okay.
no.
Or
It's
you
got to
moved
fade
your.
in and out, so it sounds like a bandwidth issue.
Do you have both the laptop and the phone going? Then we know we got to distance
Yes.
them. All right. If you're using your phone as your
Moving
microphone,
my phone.
yeah, move it away from the laptop the most that you can, like because for
Actually, I'm on
typing
the
or whatever.
PC today. I'm on the
Okay.
PC. I moved it.
Oh, okay. Well, because it'll do that. I know mine does it. It picks up the Bluetooth and it goes like wacko jacko, like all over the place. Okay.
It scrambles the signal because it passes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
right,
made sure my
right.
Bluetooth was off and everything also.
Well, anyway, I just Aaron, have you watched this one more than once?
I have seen it twice. I've seen all of them once before, at least some of them twice. This one I watched twice. It's not one of those where I'd watch it a ton of times for the simple fact that I won't say extremely familiar. I haven't read every book on it, but the topic matter, I already knew a fair bit about it. So.
Oh, good, because you can help me because this one kind of got me. Like, I get the technology end of it because I know Brooker's always going to do something like that. But I really wasn't ready for some of the other parts of it.
Sci-fi has always been a medium where they could explore modern topics by kind of laying a layer over it. So, one of the most well-known ones was a Star Trek episode where the two different species, one's black on left, white on right, and the other's vice versa, and they're put against each other. So, but this one explores a very specific topic that has been it's been big since World War II, but it exploded as of the war in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it really has. It's been a little crazy. So I think the first thing I'll do, I watched it twice. I watched it once when it first came out because I watched it, everything when it first came out, and then I just watched it again last night. Again to make sure that I was all fresh. And it kind of hit me the same way. I have to be honest with you. Like, I didn't have a change in perspective over the years, which is unusual because most of them, when I watch them for the second or third time, like, it hits me different based on the timing and, things that have happened. And, just because it's been a few years and everything in society has changed, but this one kind of hit the same. And it might be because of, what was going on, like you said, Aaron, back then. It was, there was a lot still going on,
and we're rolling into a new war as well right now. So
right.
With you're over on the shill, so you're catching Starsky's end of it. So it does have a renewed perspective.
You're right, because I'm getting that same feeling as I did when my uncle went over in Afghanistan. He was on one of those I guess the missions that they go with all the heavy equipment and do the groundwork before everybody gets there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they go there and they get everything ready.
Did he drop in by parachute or did he come in by sea?
No, he came in. He came because of his rank. He went in by parachute. He has to be there like really first. Like, and he's got a small bunch with him. Yeah.
He's probably a Green Beret.
Well, I don't know. I don't like talk about the particulars of it. I just know
Yeah.
like they were there with them, and then they have to get like then like you said, they go by sea and all the big equipment comes in, and then the troops come in,
Yep.
after that. So like he was the one, they go in ahead of time and get things ready for the big equipment to come, and then he organizes all of that. And he was career, he was 40 years. So
So
but
yeah, most
mhm.
likely Green Beret or Airborne.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, he loved it. He absolutely loved it. But on that, I think I will read. I'm going to read quickly the plot for you guys because I figured we do it a little different. Sometimes when we do the plot, we stop and talk about the different parts. But because there's so much to go on with this above the plot, I think if I just read it straight through, if you guys are agreeable, so everybody's on the same page, and then we can just
Yes.
go back to the points. I think that might be easier, especially for those that are watching and those in the chat if they want to contribute. If they have the plot down, they'll see exactly why we're zoning in on certain areas right away.
Yeah, they'll need the
So
twist to kind of understand context.
yeah. So I'm gonna read it straight out. I like reading it straight out from the Wikipedia because they don't mess around. Um, they just give the plot straight out, and then I don't have to add anything to it. So, okay, so the plot is about Stripe Conan, who was played by Malachi Kirby, and Hunter Raymond, played by Madeline Brewer, and their squad mates in a military that hunts roaches, pale, snarling humanoid monsters with sharp teeth. Each soldier has a neural implant called MASS, MASS, that provides data via augmented reality. Stripe and Hunter's squad searches a farmhouse, while squad leader Medina, played by Sarah Snook, interrogates the owner, a devout Christian, played by Frances McGee. Stripe discovers a nest of roaches, one of whom points an LED device at Stripe. Unfazed, he shoots the roach dead and stabs another roach. Medina arrests the owner, and the squad burns down the farmhouse. Stripe is rewarded with an erotic dream following his kills, but his mask glitches during it. After further malfunctions the following day, Stripe has his mask tested and consults a psychologist, Arquette, played by Michael Kelly. But neither visit reveals any problems. The next day, Medina, Stripe, and Hunter arrive at an abandoned housing complex. After a roach sniper suddenly kills Medina, the other two soldiers enter the building as the sniper shoots at them. Stripe encounters a woman and urges her to flee, but Hunter Raymond shoots her dead. Stripe finds another woman, Ariana Labid, and her child, and Hunter prepares to shoot them. Stripe intervenes and wrestles Hunter, knocking her unconscious as she shoots him in the stomach. But Stripe gets up and escapes with that mother and son. They reach a cave in the woods where the woman, named Katerina, explains that the mass implant alters soldiers' senses to show people of her ethnic group as inhuman roaches. They are victims of a genocide, justified by the military as genetic cleansing. While lay people see the group as they are, they treat them as inferior due to propaganda. Hunter arrives and kills Katerina and her son Alec, and then knocks Stripe unconscious. When Stripe awakens, he is in a cell, where Arquette, the psychologist, apologizes for his mask glitch caused by the LED device. Arquette reveals that mass alters soldiers' senses so they can kill without hesitation or remorse, and that Stripe consented to this when he enlisted before having his memory wiped. Stripe has the choice to follow his mass and memory to be reset or to be imprisoned. Arquette forces Stripe to re-watch the sensory feed of his farmhouse raid, where he now sees himself gruesomely killing people. In this final scene, Stripe, now a decorated officer, approaches the house from his erotic dreams, and he has tears streaming down his face as he smiles. The house is then shown to be a dilapidated, empty home. And that ending kind of really got me. Well,
I know.
So that's a lot to unpack. That's a lot. And now you can see why I read it straight through. So we know
Yeah.
there
that
are like
there's
3 or 4
there's
major topics to cover.
well, okay, let's go say, well, like, Kim, what would you like to start with? We'll start with you and then we'll go to Aaron.
Okay. Well, like when I had spoken earlier, I really kind of had a problem at first when I watched this, kind of wrapping my mind around what it was in this forest. I really feel I did find an article that really kind of is that it's more about learning from our past about our future. Even the psychologist in there says at one point that soldiers don't actually shoot to kill; they fire above the enemies.
Yeah,
And
you're
a lot of
roboting.
that.
Oh, yeah. All right,
Am
hold
I
one moment. Yeah, you're roboting really bad for the chat too. Aaron hears it. I hear it slightly, and it's
okay?
going on in the chat. So, headphones or earbuds? What are you wearing?
I've got head.
I couldn't even hear that. What? Nope. Now I don't hear it at all. A cyborg. Okay. Can you still hear us, Kim?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Can you hear
That's
me?
good. Yeah. What did you
Okay.
change?
I moved away from the cover with what I
Okay.
did.
I
Again, a
think I
little
think
bit.
yeah. I think you might have to if you are
When you drop
going
out and
through
come
your
back in.
phone, if you're going through your phone for your mic, you're going to have to
Uh-huh.
stay away from the computer for because you're using that for the chat. I can bring the comments up in here on the side
Yeah.
so you can see them. There you go.
Okay.
You just won't be able to type. You see? Can you
Yeah.
see them? I don't know.
That's better.
Okay. All right. But you are still roboting a little, so I'm not sure what it
That's so
what it
weird.
is. Yeah, it is. Sometimes it's when you're moving the mic around, the electronics. But all right. So we only heard maybe the first 2 sentences of what you said before the robot took over. So
Okay. Better. Is it better?
I want to say yes, but it starts better and it
It's
goes right
not.
to robot. Yeah, it starts better with your first word and it goes right to robot. So I don't know what's going on. Do you want to? I'll tell you what. Let's start with Aaron, and what I would like you to do is to pop out and come back in. Reset. With go all the way out and come all the way back in. Letting your mic reset itself with the phone with StreamYard. Sometimes that fixes it. Also, on your settings, make sure you have echo cancellation on. When you hit mic settings on StreamYards when you come in. You try that? Were you able to hear me?
Yeah. I sent you a message.
Oh, you did. Oh, let me see. Talk. Go ahead. Maybe that fixed
Is it
it.
any better now?
No, did you just hear the robot? I just heard, say one more time.
Any better now?
No, you're still robot. But what you have on there, leave them on. Go and do that. Like I said, the rebut. Did you hear me say like you go all the way out? Make sure echo cancellation is on. Come in again, all the way with the thing. Okay. All right. And then Aaron, I'll just go with you first. Then, what would you like to cover first about it while we wait for Kim?
I guess we'll cover the first topic, which is all kind of wrapped up together. But the primary thing, like you said, was the hesitation to kill. So
Yeah, and
I don't know
that's
how much
humanistic, right? I mean, we all have it.
it is,
Right?
and there's a couple of different reasons you can do it. I mean, some people do it out of fear. They're in a panic. You hit a fight or flight instinct, and you're afraid to fire just because you're locked up. Some people fire overhead, or they just don't pull the trigger because they lock up. But I don't know if you uncovered it in your research, but this is based on an actual book called Men Against Fire: The Problem of Battle Command by S.L.A.
Mhm.
Marshall.
Mhm.
Um, Basically, he did after World War II, he went through and did interviews of soldiers, and he found out that, less than 25% of men in combat are actually firing at the enemy. Those that do fire, or a lot of those do fire overhead, and while the specifics because it is an anecdotal study, it wasn't very well controlled. People
Mhm.
debate the specifics of it, the percentages and stuff, but generally it is
Mhm.
accepted that people do that. People don't want to kill each other, unless they're trained to do it. So
Right. I would think it's
that's
not instinctual to want to do that. I mean, I know we have survivor's instinct when we're attacked, when we're in that kind of situation, but to actually,
yeah,
have to be the aggressor. Yeah.
the fight instinct isn't actually that strong in people. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't understand that until they're in an encounter. It takes time to adjust your attitude and your first instincts to fight back. It really
Right.
does. And,
Mhm.
the first time I actually came across this was I was working, strangely enough, at a toy store, same toy
Mhm.
store I met my wife at, and I had an assistant manager there that I caught a ride with him, and he was reading
Mhm.
a book called On Killing, and I looked it up. It's On Killing: The Psychological Cost of Learning to Kill in War and Society by David Grossman. It's a
Mhm.
newer book that covers more, and it's not just about training soldiers to kill, which that is part of it, but it's about the after effect, the things that they have to deal with when they come home, how they change, those sorts of things. And
Mhm.
they what people kind of don't realize is when you go in the military, they do a lot of them you'll see that there's the pressure that's exerted on them, and
Right.
they're not just trying to dehumanize them, which, depending on your viewpoint, that may be a part of it, because they are changing them, but they're trying to teach them to operate under pressure so they don't hesitate on that trigger because
Mhm.
of fear of lockup, but also they did small things in large amounts, like the targets pre-World War II were the standard bullseye kind of targets, the circles
Mhm.
with different ratings. Post-World War II, they started using human shapes to condition individuals to shoot for human-shaped targets,
Mhm.
and, it puts soldiers through a long process that there's only a specific part of training that's called indoctrination. It's first portion of the phase, but, really the whole process is an indoctrination process where they are training you to
Mhm.
kill, and that has a lot of implications, but, I kinda wanna hear, your first take on what you saw before I wanna start even trying to
Um.
dig into that.
Yeah. Well, what I saw was that there was several different types of soldier actually portrayed. I mean, Stripe is a totally different type of soldier than Hunter, right? I mean, Hunter, what is the statement that Hunter makes jumping in the back of one of the vehicles that one time? She's comes from a farm, she's all vested in guns, and that this hunting, this shooting to kill comes naturally to her. And to me, that was a large statement that there would be soldiers that actually believe strongly in what they're doing, and it would be a little bit easier for them. Whereas someone like Stripe, maybe not as much, more humanistic. He's looking right at people when he sees them, as you can see when he approaches the first roach, he approaches anybody else after he gets the LED. He sees people. He sees people. It would be different for him. Um, to me it was evident that they must, to be able to do what they did, had some kind of, when I saw the first LED, I knew there was some kind of device in their heads, because it's Charlie Brooker, of course, and I figured there's always an implant, or there's always something like that. And was reaching for, like, why were they going after, like, we didn't at first understand that a roach was a person. Like, you don't find that until they kill the first one, that you see that they are actually people, and they make them look dehumaned. Okay. And they do that on
Mhm,
purpose, because I guess because it's hard to just kill a person for no reason, like if you don't understand why. Which, in conflicts like this, in war, and there have been plenty of skirmishes and conflicts in the United States that I'm aware of, and then there's been protests about them, and people don't want to go, and it's mostly because they want to understand what they're fighting for before they do something so aggressive. And I get that. I get that, but I also believe in defending our country and fighting for what we need to fight for. I'm not opposed to the things that we need to do. So I don't want to put that out there. But I do understand why some people don't get there if they don't understand the reason. Because I do think it makes it much easier with anything, including a war or a defending war or anything that we're going to do. Once you understand why you need to do something and what the end goal is, it's so much easier to go through the paces. And that's with anything, not just war and killing, but with anything that we do. That's human nature, basically. With information and understanding comes the ability to move forward through the process. And that's what I believe any damn thing we're dealing with. So when I looked at it, Aaron, that's what I applied. I applied that if they had the information as to why, they would have done better. But because it was genocide, okay, that's hard to explain to people. Okay, you're not always going to understand or believe in what the person wants you to do, what the government is trying to do if it's genocide, because, sometimes there's not anything you can believe in, and they're still trying to tell you that it's something that needs to be done, and you're just not behind it. How are you going to really do it? And even if you do it, are you going to have repercussions for it later? Or is it going to affect you in some way? And as we know, with everything with social services that we go through in our country, we do know that when there's not an understanding of the why, they have issues. And then some of the things that we see, even when we understand the why, we have issues. So that's where I was with that. That was a lot, huh? I'm sorry.
No, that was great.
You asked. You asked.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
Welcome back, Kim.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm
Am
glad
I
you're
better?
back. You
had trouble getting back in.
Did you have trouble getting back in? You still, I don't even want to say it, but you're still a little tinny, but not as bad as before, though. But,
okay.
All right, I'm gonna let Aaron finish because he started with we started on the basic on the war aspect of it in the beginning.
Well, I kind of wanted to round robin it and then go from there and see what her kind of take on it is if she's able.
Yeah, ask her the same thing. Go ahead.
Just wanted to what you were speaking on before, your kind of first take on it, looking at it, and mostly about the conditioning for war is kind of what I was speaking on, but I definitely want to hear whatever you feel like opening with.
Well, for me, it's so much about taking away their empathy. They felt like the soldiers would be much more effective if they did not have that empathy, if they had senses of smell and feel. And so that was a lot of it for me. I think that was kind of what, we're talking about, taking our past, learning from it, and don't make the same mistakes in the future. They've realized that maybe the military wasn't effective in the past because of the empathetic nature of humans, most humans.
I can see that with the empathetic nature. I can definitely get that.
Yeah, and and the thing is that that is effective, and there are after effects that we talk about probably a little more later, because that's a topic wrapped up into itself. So hit that a little bit later, because we really see that even chronologically in the episode at a later point. But the unfortunate thing is that starting, when they started that, it causes an effect where they are in an insular military environment. And that's not just culturally, because within the military, they tend you become military, you work military. Sometimes you're stationed military, sometimes you're reserve, but it's a very different culture, and you're embedded in it. And then when you deploy, you go elsewhere, and the international nature of war worsens it, because you're in an even more insular environment where you are the only Americans there. Sometimes you'll have Europeans and such, but then you're generally still amongst white people, and you're embedded with people of other cultures. Vietnam, it was Vietnamese. Korea, we saw it to a degree, but not as severely. As time goes on, it seems like it's gotten worse. And in Afghanistan and Iraq, it was amongst Arab peoples primarily. So the fact that all of your enemies are, and I should stipulate that not all Arab individuals are your enemies. That's obviously not the case, but all of your
Right.
enemies are Arab individuals. All of your allies are generally American or white individuals. It causes an almost implicit bias type of racism, and with some soldiers, it's extreme. They use, I'm not going to say them, but they use the slurs that are developed in those environments to describe people, whereas others are more humanistic. And to kind of go to the understanding why we're doing it. So you've got conditioning versus development. Conditioning is where the person's really not gaining an understanding of why they're doing it. They're just conditioned to do it because they're told to do it in this environment they're in. And being in a deadly environment worsens it because it becomes second nature to kill and defend, and that's what leaves a lot of the after effects. Development into it takes a lot longer. I'm not saying I'm a hardcore killer or anything, but my grandfather was military, my father was military, my brother was military, and they're all low rankers, petty officers and privates. But they hunted. I don't hunt. I have no opposition to it. I've just never done it. But I have firearms, and I've had training and experience where I'm extremely safe. I know, to keep them locked up and things like that. And I mean, I am amenable to the whole Second Amendment debate. I understand there need to be more controls on, but I don't think this is the place to unveil that. But
Right.
the,
That would be a whole different thing.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
the things. But I've learned over time doing what I've done to evaluate the situation and play it through to figure out to its possible ends before making a decision. It's not a panic effect. When I work loss prevention, I have over 1,000 trespasses and over 400 active apprehensions. So I've had to deal with the adrenaline rush, and that's part of what they train them for, is controlling your breathing and preventing panic. But for most soldiers, it just ingrains that instinct to identify the other, hate the other, and that's why you end up seeing civilian loss. The major place you really see them focusing on the understanding why we're doing it is non-commissioned officers, which are privates and sergeants in the Army. It's each branch has different ones, and the commissioned officers, which are lieutenant and above, and they have more say in what they're allowed to execute and what they're not. So the enlisted, they do it whatever they're told unless it's something extraordinary, and they're putting themselves at risk. Even even commissioned officers are doing, but to a lesser degree, because if an illegal order comes down the line, they're going to say no if they're operating as they should. But most soldiers are just do what you're told, get it done, and when you're pitched into that environment, you'll do anything to survive.
Right. And you can get that and you understand it, and we have great respect for those that actually put their lives into service for us to do these things, but also understand what it does to them and how difficult it is for everyone involved to get that to a point where it can get done. So Kim, I wanted to see in both of you, actually, I wanted to know, do you actually think that device, is that a hindrance or is that a benefit to them being able to perform their jobs, period? Like, let's not talk about the situation of what they're doing, just being able to do. They are tasked with the responsibility. Does that device, and with all of its complications and side effects, is it a hindrance or a benefit for them to complete what they need to do to complete their jobs as given?
Can actually see it both ways, because it does take that humanist part, but then again, it's taking the humanist part out of them. So it makes them actually more dangerous. They're unable to see what they perceive as a threat is not actually a threat. something
Right.
else.
Because they're basically the way they get the information, right? Because doesn't the commanders and all just
Right.
send the information to them? Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting too, because Charlie Brooker basically took this straight out of a book with the same title, And Against Fire, The Problem of Battle Command, which was written back in 1947 by S.L.A. And they spoke of the same thing, of seeing the empathy and the humanistic nature out of our soldiers. So they were, they're training, reprogramming them, basically, to see that as their enemy. Because with the empathy still there, it is a good thing until you have to wipe out your enemy.
Right. Okay.
So I do see, both. I think as far as being bad, I think it kind of gives a possible picture of a post-human world if we go that far. Which I don't think any of us would want, because it's very bleak.
No, I get it. And
I agree. It's kind of both ways on it, because you don't want them suffering the damage that they do from engaging in those acts, but it's also in this situation, which this is also an exploration. Almost all Black Mirror episodes are of how technology can be abused, and it's when you disconnect the humanity, you begin to cause problems. And in the case of modern soldiers, they're returning home psychologically damaged and sometimes destroyed. In this case, it's allowing them to commit genocide. I mean, this is a eugenics-based culture, which before you say that, well, that's only, and I'm not going to say the word, it's Germany, World War II, it's only those individuals that do things like this. They took a lot of their stuff, their basis, from the United States. A lot of people here were sponsoring eugenics during that era. So a lot of the hate over there and the quote unquote scientific ideals were spawned from America. So it can happen anywhere. Realistically, war is, there's the old saying, war is hell, and it is, and there has to be a price to pay for it to discourage us from doing it. And it's terrible that our soldiers have to suffer it and that everybody else gets to sit at home and spectate. I think that is the single worst part, is that they are the only ones that feel it. And then when they return home, whereas we should be adapting our society to help them reintegrate, they generally have to form cultures outside of our own. I mean, people can't deal with jokes that soldiers tell because they say they're offensive and they're extreme, and they are by normal standards, but they're nothing when you compare it to the fact that you've been killing people.
Exactly.
So they become even more insular at home.
And you know what? When I thought about it, I thought the device would help them actually do their responsibilities, but at the same time, it stripped them of what we automatically, because we are human, we have that double check on our superiors and everybody else, that if something's wrong, it's wrong. Like I think Kim was inferring a little bit about that too. Actually straight out inferring that it kind of eliminated the ability to double check on the system itself, which we all rely on, that we're all individuals, and that we can speak out and think of things. If something's a little right, we can ask questions and reaffirm. I know that's not common with soldiers. You do what you need to do, but there is a checks and balances of hierarchy and things like that, and that device kind of takes it all away. It takes all of that away. There's no question whatsoever. You just do. You just do. It's almost like they're not human either anymore. They're not going to ask with any kind of thinking about the process. They don't even question what they have to do at all. And that's what I found uncomfortable about it. I didn't think the device should go that far. Maybe to take the uncomfortableness away from a soldier, so they suffer less the trauma. But then again, if we don't suffer the trauma of the things that we do, how can we checks and balances whether it's right or wrong? Not that you want to put people in that position. War is rough. War is hard. War is not something we want to do without pain, in my opinion. Um, we should have something there to keep us in check and balances. It shouldn't be an easy process. Otherwise, it's too out of control. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it, that device makes it so damn easy that no, the parameters aren't there anymore. You know, the balance isn't there anymore. Um, I know it's necessary in some points. We're a young country. We've been in plenty of stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say that that we shouldn't do it. I'm not going to be one of those, peace above everything else people, because sometimes wrongs happen. Sometimes people need help, and our country has gone in and helped. And we don't regret. I don't regret that. Do I regret the losses that happened because of it? Yeah, absolutely. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but I can't sit here and say that it was absolutely wrong to assist people to do it. Uh, there's like two sides of it. And that's what I think that device took away. We would be stomping all over the world if a device like that existed. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the sad thing is that the training they go through right now is analogous to it. That is to
Mm-hmm.
its more extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So then they demonstrate that too, because they come home and they, on there he sees that it was an illusion. He's crying. He's no better off. And soldiers come home to a psychological version of that, because you have at the best end, generally you've got that insular culture where they have to rely on the system to either readapt them, or they pick alternative cultures. There's one, like I said about humor, there is a specific uh cable channel, which I don't know if it's existent anymore. I looked for it and couldn't find it, but it was nothing. It was for no one but soldiers, because nobody else got their humor. Nobody else told their jokes or presented it that way. Nobody else had that experience. At the worst end of it, you start getting into PTSD, or you've got individuals who are catatonic. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand about PTSD from war is it's not what they've seen, it's what they've done. They did things they didn't realize that they could or would do, and when they come back, they can't handle it. But they the terrible thing is on their I keep saying that, but the whole thing's terrible, but on their the chip is what allows them to go in, and like she said, it's the removal of the sense of smell and such. It's a state of disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
And in modern war, they're sent in, and they have to make spot decisions, and the only way to get out alive is sometimes to do things that we would consider immoral.
Mm-hmm.
Under the rules of war, they might be justified, but under normal rules, they would not.
Right.
And they have to carry that with them when they come back.
Mm-hmm.
And there are not the resources that they need to help them adjust. It's getting better. Like locally,
Mm-hmm.
they've got a hotel where
Mm-hmm.
the soldiers come back, they stay in it, and it does like they do in the military, where here's this your mealtime, and alarm goes off and such. And I don't think they're required to attend, but it helps them to readapt to civilian society, because you can't just drop them back then or they can't
Mm-hmm.
function. And then
Right.
a lot of the time they don't have the resources they should to have a better life, because they get talked into the GI Bill and the bonuses spent, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not functional enough to use that GI Bill.
Right. No, no, I absolutely get that. Um, the the one scene where Stripe is sitting on the bed after he wakes up from the nightmare, and he's looking at the other soldiers, and they're all dreaming too, right? They're all being rewarded for what they've done for the day, having some vision of something that means a lot to them, which is the inference I got because it happened with Stripe after his, first kill of roaches, so to speak. Um, that he had that great dream, even though he's went haywire because of the device. When he gets up and sits on the bed and he notices that everybody's trigger hand is twitching. Everybody's laying in the same position and everybody's kind of twitching a little bit like they're altered. You know, and What did you think the director and Charlie were trying to tell us there? Because that kind of struck me. That scene, I'm still trying to figure the words for that scene.
So, do you want to jump in on that first, Kim? Because I don't want to keep running over you.
Um, my take on it was kind of like, here they were going after the roaches, and you see them like that, and like you said, you see the movement in trigger hand, especially with the finger, and it's almost like, and the roaches were presented to them visually all zombie like. So when I see these men laying there like that, I'm thinking they're the ones with the bugs. They're the ones. They're like the zombies. Because
You know what?
no feeling, nothing. And they're, they may be getting a gratifying dream, but physically, they're still out there pulling that trigger.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's kind of. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that the tie-in I got, and the big thing that tipped me off was when she was talking, and she said that she would want to come for an hour after that. After 2 kills, meaning they're feeding them all to, from what I can tell, sex dream. I don't even think, which there are tie-ins like his house, which is, like you said, an absolute illusion and stuff. There are tie-ins to the world back home, so it's something along the lines of, love letters to family and everything, but it's also machismo culture that you tend to see in the military, where it's like, oh, I killed one today, and that the cross encouragement, and they're doing that as a means of cheering each other on in modern day to survive. If it goes too far, it's obviously a problem, but at its baseline, it's part of that survival instinct to cope with it. And I think that's what they're doing with that, is they're saying, you're a hero, go get laid.
No, yeah, like
You're
some kind of
more,
gratification that you need, right? Yeah.
yeah, and it's probably too, with that, there are associations between increases of hormones from sex that make you feel more powerful, which I don't know as much about in women, but I think it tends to be along the same lines, where you're more confident in the aftermath and stuff. And I think they're creating a feedback loop. It's where you kill, you get congratulated, you get sex, the hormones improve. That makes you more confident to kill. So you get sex. So, and they're cycling in that way. And that's why they get the trigger finger pull, is to tie the kill to sex, or to,
Right.
if they are dreaming about other stuff, whatever else they may be dreaming of is whatever it's a Pavlovian effect, Pavlov's dog, where you
Right.
pull the trigger, you kill, you get good stuff. So pulling the trigger and killing is good stuff.
No, that's exactly like when I saw their hands switching and I saw their body in such an agitated state, although I know in their minds they're having a very pleasant endorphin dream, that sex, it's a release, it's like the endorphins, the happiness is going on there. Men get happy too, don't tell me, that's like a total release. Those endorphins go off in your head. It's the same, maybe not the same exact chemical response that a woman gets, but you do get it too, and it does encourage you. You feel almost well rested, better, stronger, more confident. People that are getting that endorphin release on a regular basis are happier, more well adjusted, more greater mental health. I've actually done some of the research on the endorphins based on a couple of episodes of Mayhem that I did, and some theories that I have as far as long-term pain and things like that. Yeah, men and women the same. And so I could see the tie in there, like you're saying, the Pavlovian, like, okay, if you can do this, then you're going to get that. And just to keep you in that keep you in that wellness state in your mind, and that happiness almost. I mean, I could see that connection. But what bothered me was the actual separation of it. Here they are laying in their bed, just ready to kill, all tensed up with their trigger fingers going off, while in their mind they were having orgasms. And so I was like, whoa, like that's like putting it like, that means that when they pull that trigger and they kill that roach, they're getting the same release.
Yeah, yeah, and that
That's
what's
what they
kind
were
of
trying to do. That's what that device was trying to do at night,
yeah,
like tie that in. And I'm like, whoa, like that's, hmm.
and I don't
Yeah,
think they
that's,
were tense at all. I think they were relaxed, and that was part of it. Casual
oh,
kill.
yeah, just casual kill. Okay. Yeah, well, it was just like the way the body was just laying there like that. Like to me, that, I don't know. It just like,
I think that was about uniformity.
hmm
You're all the same. You all do the same thing. Don't question it.
hmm
Be like everybody else, which is
yeah.
definitely has a military read in.
hmm Yeah, exactly. Would you agree, Kim? Like you're quiet. I know because you're worried about the robot, but speak up. It's okay. I mean, because the more you talk, sometimes it goes away
I
completely, and then
know it
sometimes it's
does.
sneaking in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't have the best weather right now either, so
Mm-hmm.
it kind of messes with my internet sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do agree with that. It's about that gratifying satisfaction and tying it to that conquest, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be, whether it's, you know, taking down one of the roaches, whatever. They're then allowed that satisfaction. And by tying it into a dream, but you still
Mm-hmm.
see that finger going off, you do know that every time they do that, every time
Mm-hmm.
they make a kill or a hit, they're getting that same feeling. So yeah, I totally
Mm-hmm.
agree with that.
Yeah.
And it's all about the endorphins.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what I just did, but I lost my comments. Okay, there they go. Okay. That was weird. Okay. No, mm, White Stripes song Conquest. I hear you, Charlie. Yeah, I hear you. And
I
Beaver,
love White
thank you.
Stripe.
Yeah. Beaver, just hang in there. I know you would. I know you would because you've been there. And again, and we mean no disrespect at all. This is a conversation about the show itself. And I'm welcome to
Hmm.
have that conversation with you later after you watch it. I definitely would open it up for
And
discussion. You know. hmm
yeah, Beaver,
But
I've got a family member
yeah.
military also.
Right. It's this is a make believe device that they put in their head to do this to them, and they're not like it's
Yeah,
not about normal soldiering. It is not about the
no,
norm. It
not at
is
all.
a dystopian situation. It's a Charlie Brooker episode, so it's not
Yeah,
reality at all, and we
It's
know
no,
a
that.
because
All
trust me,
three of us up here,
trust
yeah, we know
yeah,
it. hmm
trust me, Beaver.
hmm
If it was, I couldn't be up here because of my son.
That's right. No,
So
we all
yeah,
have great respect. We all come from that. We all come from that in some way. And so, absolutely, we don't think any part of it is factual,
no,
except for what
not
Aaron
at
is
all.
talking about the situations and the climate of war and what our country, how we set things up and what we expect of people. That part we were speaking of just as random people that have knowledge of it. Um, that part just from our country's view. But
yeah.
it is definitely sci-fi, the situation, and you
It's
know,
Yes.
hyperbole
yeah,
of the
hmm
situation where they take it
hmm
and they take the
hmm
negative facets and they blow it up. And if you walk away from the episode judging
hmm
soldiers poorly because of it, then you've
hmm
completely missed the point. It's about getting people
Right.
exactly.
to
hmm
understand what soldiers have been through, why
hmm
they are the way they are, so that we can begin to help them to help
hmm
stop it in the first place as much as we
Yeah,
can, and then to help them reintegrate and
yeah,
function in
yeah,
society. Oh,
yeah.
you're not
Don't.
interrupting,
Yeah.
Beaver. That's the point.
That's
Is
right. That's the point. Please
Yeah.
speak up. That's part of it because
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to say is that that there needs to be more done so that something like that, wouldn't happen
Uh
or
huh.
be necessary. And I think that
Right.
part of before you got here, the large part of Aaron's conversation was all in about what we've now done to actually help that situation, even though we haven't done enough, but at least in recognizing the difficulties that the people that actually do the service and have to do what we need to do, as uncomfortable it is, that need to be taken care of afterwards because it is against our nature to some of
Hmm.
these stuff. And we need to
Yeah.
understand that instead of
Because
judging people that step up to do it for us, instead of judging them, and I believe in protest and stuff. I believe in you can say your words, but you don't judge the people that do it, that also feel
right.
differently than you. You can believe in something without judging the other party. You can. You don't have to do it that way. You don't have to hurt other people with your opinion because you have an opinion. So.
And, I think, Claire, too, that kind of goes back to what I was reading, where this was actually a warning from our past to about our future, because so many times we have taken that humanist nature out of our military so that we feel like they would perform better. We need to leave that in so that, and give them coping mechanisms and give them support, not only through their military career, but after their military career. Because you could tell when he went back to that house,
right?
You could tell this was not a man that was going to fare well. This was not going to, that wasn't his reality, or what he thought was his reality.
Right.
When in fact it was.
And
so I think that was, but I think that was a big message. Just keep that humanity, keep the humanists in our military, our frontline responders. They need that. They need that to be able to cope and to help others to recognize differences.
And it's funny because all three of us are focusing on the humanistic, on the personal side of it with the soldier, and yet the critics, when this came out, have you guys read any of the articles in regards to it? They all focused on the fact of what was going on in the country at the time, which was we were having situations in so many areas where there was like so many refugees going into so many different countries, looking for a place, looking for help. There's like, and there was just like this all over the country. It was going on in many different places, and what they said that it was like more of the descriptions of refugees just turning them into swarms of people, and summarizing the episode as a catch-all metaphor for like how you deal with disenfranchised members of society, like almost using the very unpleasant term, the unwanted. You know what I mean? Like, and that they would just label them as roaches just to get rid of them. And that's kind of what the thing was like. That would be like the next step, because if you remember, in our country alone, remember, Aaron, we started like lists of who could come into the country and who couldn't. Like we started like all kinds of things that we had never done before. We are a country of refugees, of immigrants. Like we're a country of, everybody here comes from somebody somewhere else, originally, like way back. You know what I mean? So, it made it like, okay, there's two Kims. Let me take this one off. Wait, there's another Kim down there. Okay, because there's another Kim down there. So I had to get rid of that one. Is this the real Kim? Is this the real Kim? Kim? Is that you? Okay, the other one disappeared, but this one's not talking, so I don't know what to do. But anyway, Aaron, so while we wait to see if Kim comes back as another Kim, it's just kind of weird, but it was funny because that was going on. And then in our past, when we went against Germany, of course, when they did genocide, and we were actually against it with many other countries, and we tried to go and help, and do what they did. We got a long history of not being for it, but then all of a sudden, we had this. We didn't have genocide. We weren't out there fighting against them, but we were just not accepting. We were treating everybody like the unwanted, like just go away, like we don't care what happened to you, just get out of here, which was caused a lot of protests and caused a lot of dissent in our country.
Well, and we repeat that cycle too over and over, because after World War I, nobody wanted to enter in World War II, and it was a policy. It was called isolationism. And it got pushed to the point until Japan hit us in Pearl Harbor, and because they were allies with Germany, we went full force. We could have saved a lot of lives if we stepped in earlier, and nobody's in favor of war, but sometimes you have to do it. And it speaks to what he was saying in a kind of cold way, because sometimes you have to do it. Nobody wants to do it, but when you do it, how effective should you be and what cost? should you be willing to take? Because World War II is much more clear-cut justifiable, especially because of the concentration camp that were involved. But then you take a look at Afghanistan and Iraq,
Right.
and we had soldier after soldier that was put through this, and they didn't need to be. It was done mainly over oil, and for political reasons, and that people malign soldiers for what they do, and during Vietnam, they called them baby killers and everything. And what they fail to understand is even without the draft, soldiers step up to defend. If someone were to come over our borders or invade our territories elsewhere, like they were to take in charge into ports or, embassies and stuff, those are the people that are there no matter what to take care of it. And that's what they're stepping up to. And we are the ones that allow our politicians to deploy them into these situations. And we say they're immoral for doing it. No, they did what you wouldn't do. They took that oath. They signed themselves away to it for a number of years, and they got sent over, and they're doing what they have to do. Even after war starts going to military, there's a whole system of them being afraid of free college because it would deter people from entering the military because they want to get the GI Bill and stuff like that. And whereas it's politicians and people with money and influence and power that are causing these situations, they cast it off on soldiers. And it's not right. Should not be treated that way for agreeing to serve your country.
Yeah, no, I get it. Oh, so all right. So now, is there another part of the episode that actually reached you? I mean, I talked about the barracks scene. Is there a scene you want to talk about? Well,
yeah, I kind of actually verging on that same topic when he was talking about he went home and we talked about the psychological side effects and stuff like that. That's actually a very short snippet of what a lot of soldiers face because they go overseas and they get the hazard pay and they get all this great pay. And then when they get home, their wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband has up and left them a lot of times for somebody else. And when they do it, they've stripped out their account. If they haven't stripped out their account, they've spent it out. And you've got ones who even they stay with them, but they spend it down to nothing because it's this situation too where a lot of them aren't working and they're just spending the money because they know they can do it. Yeah, you're a little bit loud, but we got you.
Yep.
Okay.
But they spend the account down. The soldier physically has nothing when they get home.
Yeah. Can you hear us, Kim? I don't think she can hear us. That's why she was talking in. Can you hear us okay? No, I think she went out again. It's like she was good for a second. There are storms in the area. I mean, I've been getting thunderstorms like crazy too, so it could be messing with her internet as she goes. And she'll come back in, but Aaron and I will just keep going. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Claire?
I can hear you, but
Claire.
You obviously can't hear us. Yeah. All right. Hold on a second.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Because all right. All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. Yes, you're fine. You're clear. It
was totally weird. Like
it was probably the storm
one big
or something.
Clap and we've got huge wind gusts here. I mean, it almost feels like hurricane winds right now.
All right. Well, we'll try to deal with it as we can. But Aaron was talking about the services when people are coming and going and what happens to people at home when they their relationships are messed up, when they get back and people just aren't the same, like because you've been away and things like that. And we were talking, we were going to bring up what other scenes like you wanted to talk about, but I'm going to let Aaron finish and then we'll ask you what other scene you want to talk about besides the one I brought up in the barracks. So go on, Aaron.
I think that was most of it. Oh, no, it's fine. And then Beaver was talking about the fact that did you say great pay? I will laugh now. I coughed and said BS. Yes, there are a lot of dependas as well. A dependa is a slang term for somebody that just lives off of it. Most of them don't make their own money, and but the military sells it as great pay, and it's not really. And then the people at home and this isn't all. I'm not going to cast the net overall, but it happens all too often. they're spending the money out and not understanding that it needs to be savings for the aftermath, because when they come out of the military, the chances of employment can be heavily variable. Oh yeah,
No,
recruiters
yeah.
will lie through their teeth to you. That's one thing you always feel.
No, it is true. Our country needs to work harder on helping after, much more, instead of just getting everybody in, helping after, making it more of a care for the families, for the people, for everybody involved. And that's something that's been evident for a while, and it's made some progress. Not enough. I agree, Beaver. Just absolutely not enough. And but hopefully, when we speak on it more, more people will get on board. But okay, Kim, what did you what is there a scene that you wanted to speak on this?
Something that really stuck out to me was the eugenics, which, of course, kind of touched on with Germany and everything. But that's kind of a big issue, is the eugenics that was being done. It's like, and that's been going on basically worldwide. The first time it was actually that term was coined was in like 1883 by Sir Francis Galton, who was actually a cousin of Charles Darwin. And, we see it back, because immediately we think Germany when we think eugenics. But
And genocide?
Yes, and genocide. And that's another thing where I think Charlie was trying to tell us, let's look at our past and let's not repeat this in our future. Let's let that be a warning to us. So now we are seeing eugenics still being used, but we're using it for better. So I think in that way, we have made strides. Do I still think eugenics in a bad way is still going on? Yes, it definitely is. But I think also we have made great strides. We're with some of the things that we're able to do now, we can prevent diseases, we can cure diseases, and I think it's so much better. We're learning how to use like human gene therapy and things like that for the betterment of humankind instead of wiping out entire populations.
And it's true, but with progress and with science always comes those ethical and moral decisions in discussions that have to be made, and then lines that have to be drawn. Just like
Right.
in this episode,
And
there were real issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And even with that, with some of the genetic engineering, we still have to be careful because we still walk a very fine line of going to the other extreme.
And I think that's what this episode was trying to show us, the extreme, which most of Charlie Brooker's episodes in Black Mirror, they are going to show some part of some extremism in there in regards to the issue of society and technology, and or whatever it is, like in his standalone issues that he's trying to address. Aaron, you had started to say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that eugenics, though, the gene manipulation process is a really considered part of eugenics. But then again, that could just be a political thing. I'm not going to get into the argument on that. That's its own episode. But I had to double check it. The last sterilization performed in this country, some people would think that it would be super, super far back. It's not. It's 1981. And there are still, I need to look into it. There's still reports of them doing it in California in prisons. And I don't know if it's the chemical castration process or what, but it is not something. And I think Kim was out when we were talking about that, the fact that eugenics picked up its wind in America before it hit Germany. A lot of people realized that Henry Ford was he was an anti-Semite too, but he was also a heavy supporter of eugenics and touted it, and Hitler was a big fan of him.
Listen, there also a whole community, you would be surprised that eugenics is still an issue in our society in smaller communities all over. Currently, because we do not know the reason for the spectrum, for all the autism spectrum, there is there were studies going on that were boycotted within that community because of large industries that were pushing it, that were pushing the eugenics of it to try to,
Right.
treat it like a incurable disorder that you should just get rid of, where there was actually ways around it. And that I was one of those ones that protested against that study, protested against the use of that study, and
Yeah.
protested against that eugenics becoming popular for that, because these are individuals with great opportunity for growth. It's a sliding scale, and eugenics can't give us that scale. And so it was just unfathomable to me that they would use it at all. But that's what I mean. Like every day, hot topics like that still in eugenics, in our country, on different things, on the different, because science is growing all the time, and it's like how you're going to use it and how you're going to do it, and the moral and ethical questions that go along with it have to catch up, and the conversations have to be had, and people have to be part of the process. One of the reasons I was so against that study is the foundations that are supporting it had absolutely no information from the autism community when they decided to push it through. To me, that is absolutely just startling. Absolutely just beyond disgusting, in my opinion. Not a single member, not a
Yeah,
single opinion was asked. Nothing. Mm. And there are quite, a lot of advocates in the autistic community that could have spoke on it, and the opinion could have been made, and it could have been a well-rounded discussion. But no, they're not even invited to the table, and that tells you something. That tells you something, like right back to the 30s, right, Aaron? I mean, right back to Germany, if we want. Like,
yep.
they didn't get asked either, did they? And I'm not saying it's that drastic. I'm not saying, like, I don't mean to make light of it. Believe me, I'm just trying to draw a comparison where conversations don't happen and bad things do.
Well, it's a
That's my
seed
point.
for something
Mm-hmm.
worse.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
it's not kept
Mm-hmm.
in check, as the weeds, if you don't cut the weeds, they'll take the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody, and that's the thing, they want to take, and I understand having medical experts that do the
Mm-hmm.
treatment of it, but insofar as trying to eliminate, and
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the terms medical condition, psychological
Mm-hmm.
condition, because a condition is not an illness; it is a state
That's
of
right.
being.
All right.
It
And
is just how you're
yeah.
existing.
Mm-hmm.
The people
And then
within the community should make the decision.
exactly, or at least it be part of the process that does it. And that's the problem, is that they're not their voices aren't being heard, and their voices need to be heard. Like, I wouldn't even call myself an advocate, even though I know many with on this. I would never even call myself an advocate. I'd rather call myself an ally, a one who wants to help them get their voice up, to help lift them up, for their voice to be heard, not mine on the subject, not mine, theirs. They're the ones that should be speaking on it. They're the ones that need the ability to do it, and the platforms to do it. So, like, I won't even say advocate or anything like that. I just say ally. I'll be a step up to give somebody else a voice, period, on that. Because it really, really needs to come from that community. There's extremely intelligent people involved in that community that can speak on it. Um, it- it's
Yeah, I totally agree
that's
with you
just my
there,
opinion.
Claire, because
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because I have a cousin with autism.
Mm-hmm.
His dad is my first cousin. And Thomas is an amazing kid.
Mm-hmm. But that I wanted to I hear you, autistic. I hear your autistic show. We'll be finished. We will not make you late for Aaron. Promise. But on that, was there more? Okay, because I know there's so much here. So if you had to pick one other thing you want to actually get out before we end this stream, I start with you, Kim, because we keep going around. But and we kept bouncing you. So we'll start with you.
I kind of kept bouncing myself tonight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the universe was working against me on this one.
Mm-hmm.
It knew how fired up I was.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, it's just like a study in humanistic nature,
Mm-hmm.
that we need to keep. I mean, as humans, for the most part, we're naturally empathetic, and to do away with that, that was the biggest thing I took, is that we need that. We've got to have that in order to come out better on certain situations, in order to survive. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be, military related or anything like that. It's like we need that. And again, it goes back to that final scene. Just the desolate look in his face of, this is my reality. It just, to me, it was heartbreaking.
No, I agree. I would agree that that's definitely like, oh, yeah. I don't even have anything to add to that except for that I agree 100%. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah, you get. I mean, and that's the thing for the people that got the message and saw the meaning. You can see that play out in real life. It just befriend a soldier that's been to war, and if he doesn't know it, he's got a friend that does.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Aaron, is there anything else on the episode that you wanted to bring to light? We've been
No,
I can't believe that hour and a half went so fast with this conversation.
Fast.
Yeah,
it's an interesting episode. There's a lot going on. Mine, I guess, it's not something else. It's another facet of it to kind of put it to light of what soldiers go through, not just what they experience, but what they put themselves to when they come back. Is if you ever take a look at terrorist organizations or rogue militias, and the IRA is a great example. They're a terrorist organization. They set off bombs. They shot people. When peace was finally reached and they started negotiating, there were a lot of members. Sorry, I need to clear my throat. There were a lot of members that actually didn't want to stop, and they looked at it, and there's a saying, it's what do you do with the revolutionaries after the revolution? They did not want to stop because they liked what they did, and they became war heroes, and they didn't want to give that up. And then in other countries, places where they've had revolutions, they will go through and systematically arrest or kill the revolutionaries because they've made monsters of themselves, and they don't want to stop or don't know how to stop. Soldiers, they go over, they do their service, they become what they have to become, they come back, and they just want to go on with their lives. And we put up active blockades. They're not just ignored. That's what people don't get, is there are active blockades in place that prevent them from reintegrating. And we fought a 20-year war. We have got to get rid of that. And there's such a huge portion of our population that we have got to bring back. Even if we find we can't bring them back into the fold, we need to step out of ourselves to meet them and do what needs to be done to make this home.
Exactly. No, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Exactly agree with that. So before we end, last question. You're gonna love this one. The ending. Were you surprised? Would you have liked to have seen it different, or just talk about it? I'll start with you, Kim. The ending.
I would have liked to have seen it different. To me, it was just very bleak. It just painted a very bleak future for that young man. That's the way I felt about it.
Because instead of choosing prison, right? Instead of choosing no implant, he chose the implant, and he went back into service, had his memory wiped, and became successful. But that tear, right? What do you think? Like, so his memory's wiped. So where's that tear coming from, man? Like, where's that coming from?
I know. And it makes you wonder if they completely wiped it. you know?
It's almost
Or,
like you can't. Like, how do you make? To me, I don't know. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was like
oh,
a
that's
really
okay.
important thought. It to me that stated like no matter what you do, you can't wipe human. You
No,
can't
you
because it's
can't.
instinctual. So they could take the
Uh-huh.
memories, they could take what happened away, but his response, his natural, organic, humanistic being,
Yeah.
they can't wipe that no matter what they put in his
Yeah.
head because there was
No,
that tear. That tear said
there
everything to
was.
me. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. It
Yeah.
was very
And,
dramatic
you
for
know,
me. Just one tear.
you,
This is why I love
yeah,
Brooker. I can't stand
I
it.
know. That was
Yeah.
just such a poignant moment, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, because you see him
Mm-hmm.
even flashing back to
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful home
Mm-hmm.
and a beautiful woman coming out of the door with a smile on her face. And it's almost like all of a sudden his eyes are opened and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, that's not reality. This is my
Mm-hmm.
reality. And that's when that tear fell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you? Now that we've got all the drama out, Aaron, what do you think? We
Well,
just drama dumped on you. Yeah.
The sappy women.
Yeah.
I think
Sorry.
it's a read into the conscious and the subconscious because consciously they dropped in the chip, they did the modifications, but they did not
Mm-hmm.
do a thing to his subconscious, so everything is still there. All
Mm-hmm.
the
Exactly.
conditioning, all the pain, is still with him when he comes home, and I preferred the ending. I didn't like the ending, and the you're not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to, because I think an upward spin on it, a la-di-da, happily life goes on spin to it would have robbed it of the poignant
Right.
and the
Right.
meaning that it was trying to
Mm-hmm.
express. I think walking away from that episode, you needed to carry that message heavily and give it consideration for,
Mm-hmm.
hours, if not days afterward. Needs to strike
Mm-hmm.
you every time that you encounter the subject.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think so too. I mean, as much as we would love to see him with a happy ending and a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
life, and for so many, that's not their reality.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that was another thing. It's like these men and women come back and they may not have the picture perfect life. They
Mm-hmm.
may have this. That may be their reality.
Well, even on the surface too, you see a lot of them that seem like they have the picture perfect life because within the military, they teach you discipline and order, and they do put that to good use when they come back. So they
Mm-hmm.
have this very
Right.
clean, disciplined, ordinary life, but they internally they're a wreck and they're just holding it together, and then
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah.
bleeds over onto the relationships, and you don't see what happens at home. So
Right.
that
Right.
guy down the street that thinks that everything is great, he and his wife are fighting just to keep him whole every night, or
Mm-hmm.
the
Mhm.
boyfriend is there helping with
Yeah.
it. It's you need
I
to.
know. Mm-hmm.
We are not what we are. We're
Right.
not what other people see. We're what we're
I know.
going through behind the curtain.
And that's why we reiterate again, as we all three have said the whole time, that we know our country needs to do more. We need to speak
Mhm.
out more for support services after, during, understanding and acceptance that there needs to be an adjustment period. There needs to be more assistance that's given, and because of the service that's given, because they do it for us. They put themselves there for us, and we
Exactly.
need to be more understanding afterwards. And I
Yeah.
stand by that, and I understand, and and I do see the
Because
failings in
they
our country, because of it. If you're gonna make a call to duty, you have to remember as a country that you
right.
too have that duty to every single person who steps up in their family, and that's the truth of it. That's the truth
Exactly.
in the matter. And
Mhm.
sometimes we get away from that in our country, and we just we need to do better. There's a lot of things we need to do better, and
Yeah.
I'm not against our country. I would just like to see our country. I'm just a realist, okay? I see the failings. I'd like to see it do better. You know, I really would,
Yeah.
but it's not
I
going to do
agree.
better unless we actually look at it and want to make it better.
Right.
We have to. Our country is like, whenever I speak about our country, I think of a young teenager that's the stage we're at. Like, we don't want to
It
admit
is.
our failings. We don't want to admit we're not grown yet. We don't want to admit we don't know anything. We don't want to take advice from
Right. We
anybody
think
else
we know it
because
all.
because we think we know it all. We're like that bratty little country that knows it all, and we think we know everything, and we think we're gonna live forever. We have no real concept of life yet
Right.
because we're what, 18? We're young, okay.
We're like the
But here,
16-year-old that just got the car keys.
yeah, well, I've outgrown my country. I got a little older than 18, and I'm getting annoyed. Okay, let's just say that's the perfect way to explain my politics. I outgrew my
I
18-year-old
know.
country, and
I
I'm
know.
pissed off. There you go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay,
I'm a few
it's not
decades over my 18-year-old country.
yeah. And I'm making fun of it, but like I explain, I do. I run in circles with many from who are not American. We all know that, right? I hang with all the other countries, okay, and know all the other systems and have great respect for them, and
Right.
and I have to explain our country and why we do things the way we do on a regular. Like, I'm a token
Exactly.
American, okay? I'm a token American with opinion and have to try to figure this out. And so I do try to look at it realistic. And I'm not bashing our country. We're young. Like, of course, we got to go through the paces. We can do better, but we got to want to do better. And part of that is admitting we're not doing enough, especially in this situation with our service. Because if you ask people to step up, if you ask people to do their duty for their country, the country owes a duty to every single one of those people, and it goes both ways, and it has to be that way.
It does.
And we're not really fulfilling it too much on the other way. Okay.
No. We need to think about their families also, because the families also sacrifice a lot, and that's a huge reason why, even though my son is not active military anymore, that's still a huge reason that I stay involved with Marine moms. And because I want to be able to I've been there where they are with their sons and daughters, and I want to be able to be there and to support them and help them and walk right beside them as they're walking that tough journey, because I know what it's like to get a knock at the door at 4 a.m,
right,
and have Marine officers there telling me that my son's company has gone missing.
Yeah, I know that's got to be one of the worst parts. And Robski, I agree with you. It's not just an American issue. It is pretty much global. I get we all have to do it. Every country does it differently. But the sentiment is the same. When you give service to your country owes you great service in return. No, I agree, Doug. It's not a bad system. It needs a reset.
It needs
Instead
some
of patching the
refinement.
leaks. Oh wait, Ireland's constitution is less than 100 years old, and it is badly out of date.
Wow.
I hear you, and ours is older than that. And I do agree that things need to be relooked at and added to, because when you look at the stuff that just doesn't work anymore, it's got to grow with the country. It's got to grow with with the needs of the people in the country, and I get that. But
Yeah, that's my thought on it is everybody does the thank you for your service. Okay, yeah, do that, but honor their service and help them carry the load as much as you can. You can't take that psychological load from them, but we can begin adapting society to make it less of an imposition to just function on a daily basis, if nothing else.
Right.
It's all smiles and waves.
Yeah, because of their service, they gave us a blanket of protection that we can go to sleep under every night.
Listen,
we need to give them support now.
My uncle used to say, I don't want a parade. Could I use 6 weeks of counseling? Hell to the yeah. I don't want a parade. Yeah, could I use somebody to talk to? Somebody that understands, give me a support group, give me a leg up, give me a service dog, give me help, give my family help, help me get a good job, help me get back into society. Yeah, all that. I don't need a parade. And thank you for the parade, but that's not what I needed.
But Yeah.
And and I don't want to speak for him. He's not here anymore, but he used to say that constantly, and it resonates with me because I come from a family that did service not only in the armed services, but we're talking local service, like when being a volunteer fireman was something to be proud of, even when you didn't get paid, and everybody worked for everything everywhere. That's how a lot of my family was, and so service was something everyone was really, really proud of, and also spoke loudly on. When you do service, there should be some kind of protection. You shouldn't get the harm of it without the help. And
right.
Period. So on that, thank you so much to everybody.
Thank you.
You got anything lastly you'd like to say, Aaron, before I shut us all down? Yeah.
I think we've said what we can without digging a hole we don't have time for. It's still something's got to be explored, but we've done what we can.
Exactly. And on that note, if there's any, we're always willing to do sides on these. Like we adjust these. Some of these conversations are just too big. This is what Brooker does. I'll just tell you, I could go off for hours on Brooker, but this is what Brooker does to me regularly. And I'm just happy that he's doing it to a bunch of you all too. I don't feel as much like a Brooker freak anymore because I have found a whole group of you that could put up with my Brooker stanism.
Right.
This man, like when I tell you I got a Brooker scale, I got a Brooker scale. Like I do. And
Claire and I feel like we've got people around us now.
No, we do. And I like it because he makes you think, and there's nothing wrong with that. He exposes the issues. He gets the conversations going, and I absolutely love that about that man. Because these kind of conversations need to happen however they get to happen. So thank you both for joining me. Aaron, it was a pleasure. Thank you for filling in last minute. Jack, I hope you're okay. I hope everything's cool, and we'll do something else, no harm, no foul. We'll do something else, Jack. We took this one from, It's like
hopefully
we did it.
Had something better to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just hope everything's okay. These things happen, when people are all over. So, it was bound. So I do appreciate, Aaron, that you came up and helped us out with this because you're a great addition. You had some great takes on it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you very much. And thank you, everybody who hung out in the chat and participated, and for being so respectful about the service and about the difficulty of the conversation that we were having. You were all greatly respectful and contributed. And I am honored that you all did that because that shows a great amount of respect. And I'm proud of everybody. I don't want to say love because that sounds like all mushy. What everybody knows, this bear's a big mush job anyway. You all know that, right? Like I am a mushy gushy. Like forget it. I am. So when I tell you I love you all in a certain kind of way, I have great respect for everything that happened here tonight. I absolutely do. And thank you. Thank each and every one of you. Thank you, Aaron. And thank you, Kim.
Thank you. And Beaver, if you want to reach out to me, if you need to talk, you can, you know where to find me. Okay. I'm here for you, girl.
It is. It is.
And thanks for everyone putting up with my internet problems tonight.
Hey, because I was thinking that they wanted to do something to that robot. We don't like Charlie Robert.
Oh,
we don't like Charlie Brooker robots.
Oh.
That was that evil dolphin laugh. It was that evil dolphin laugh.
What was that, Claire?
That was time to go. That was
That was crazy.
No, I do have the evil dolphin laugh. It's true. I do. And it's when I'm really, really tired. I can't help it. But anyway,
you're knackered.
Good night, everybody. Yeah, I'm knackered. That word sounds so weird. But,
I know, doesn't
thanks again. Yep. Thanks again, Aaron. Thanks again, Kim. I'm not saying anything else. I'm putting an outro on because you're going to start again. For the second time tonight, here's the outro. I had to dump us and put us back up so I could end it right. Oops.
Hey.
And it didn't end. It didn't end.
Sorry